Avery Reddick wasn't supposed to be in that town. Not anymore. Not after the things he saw. The flag over his heart had long since faded, buried beneath layers of rusted silence. The kind that settles into your bones when everyone pretends you never existed. He walked with a cane he didn't need, not because of pain, because it made people look away faster. And that's what he'd been chasing for years, being invisible. Until the young SEAL froze mid-salute, like something cold had reached inside. Hyman pulled the breath from his chest. You're not watching a story. You're looking into a memory no one was allowed to record. This isn't a video. It's the file they scrubbed clean, the one buried beneath the wrong year, the wrong name. Under a hard drive that suddenly caught fire in storage, and yet somehow you're here. You found it. Or maybe it found you. It started simple. A funeral in a forgotten county. Rain without thunder, only a few folding chairs, a closed casket. And Avery sitting off to the side like a ghost watching. His own goodbye? They hadn't used his name on the program. It's just us veteran. Unclaimed. He didn't flinch. He'd seen worse betrayals in war zones. But when that young SEAL in the second row looked up, A looked eyes. With him, time broke. The kid's mouth opened slowly, like some part of him was remembering something he shouldn't be able to. Then he dropped his salute, stumbled back, and whispered a single sentence under his breath. He was there, in the bunker. Els heard it, but Avery did. And his hand, the one with the scars beneath the glove, began to tremble. You ever had that feeling where your stomach drops but you're not moving? Where something primal inside you starts whispering, don't look deeper, but your eyes do anyway? That's what it felt like when the kid collapsed seconds later. No pulse, no trauma. Just gone. Cold. Like something reached through time and shut off his light. People said it was cardiac arrest. Others said trauma. But they didn't hear what the mortician said the next day when he was cleaning the boy's personal effects. He turned off the recorder before speaking, but the audio still caught it. A faint voice. Not the mortician's. Not the boy's. A third voice. Raspy, older, like it was being dragged through static. Just for words, whispered between the static and breath. He wasn't supposed to remember. That's when I started digging into Avery's file. Except it wasn't there. His medals missing, his unit disbanded, his medical records, all marked with a red stamp that said, pre-1996 mental clearance revoked. But one image survived in an old newspaper clipping. A black and white shot of a unit standing outside a collapsed desert structure. All faces blurred, except one. Avery Young, alert, holding something in his hand that definitely didn't belong to the U.S. military, some kind of artifact. Carved, burned, and glowing. You ever seen a photo that feels like it's looking through you? I tried showing it to a retired intelligence analyst last year, a woman named Corinne who worked at Fort Beaver. She took one look and turned white. She said she had seen that face before in a file marked Echo Recovery, a file that was supposed to be destroyed in 1987. And then, right in the middle of the call, her voice cut out. But before the line went dead, I swear to God, I heard it. Again, that same third voice, only this time it was louder. You're already too late. There's something buried in Avery's past, something they couldn't erase, and now it's waking up. But it wasn't until this morning that I understood why the young SEAL collapsed, why he recognized Avery's face. His sister sent me a photo last night. One from their childhood. A family picnic at Lake Huron. The boy must have been 8. And behind him, barely in frame, blurred by time and sun, floor was a man holding a cane. Same scar, same face, same eyes. Avery Reddick, 30. Years before they ever met, and now. Now he's gone too. He's gone too. Those words sat in my mouth. It's like iron. Cold. Unyielding. Like something I was never supposed to say out loud. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. I just sat at the edge of my desk with the photo of the young SEAL and that blurred figure behind him, Avery Reddick. 30 years too early, burning a hole in my mind. I zoomed in until the pixels broke apart. I sharpened the contrast. Ran facial recognition software through a proxy that routed through 3 different dead servers. Same result? Every time. Positive match. Avery Reddick. But that's not. What kept me up was the sound that started playing from my speakers. At 3:13 a.m., without my hand touching the keyboard, a soft, muffled hum, low frequency, almost like someone breathing into a mic from another room. Except layered beneath that hum was a scraping noise, metal on metal, slow, rhythmic, and then something else I still can't explain. A voice, not speaking exactly, not words, but syllables, looping backward, like someone trying to undo a sentence. I slammed the power button, ripped the Ethernet cable, even yanked the surge protector out of the wall. But the sound kept playing for another 11 seconds. Not from the speakers. From inside the monitor. I didn't tell anyone. How do you tell someone the past is bleeding into your desktop? The next morning, I drove out to the sister's house. Not to ask more questions. I think part of me was just hoping she'd say it was all a mistake. That the man in the background wasn't Avery. That her brother never said anything about the bunker. That he was just a kid with a heart defect and an overactive imagination. But when I pulled up, the front door was open. Not wide, just cracked, like someone left in a hurry or forgot how to lock things behind them. I stepped inside slowly. The air was stale. Nothing looked broken. Nothing stolen. But everything was wrong. You ever walked into a room and felt like the objects themselves were waiting? A cup of tea, untouched but cold. A record spinning in silence with no needle down. A photo frame turned face down on the floor with no broken glass, just placed there deliberately. And then I heard it again, from the hallway this time, that scraping metal on metal, 5 seconds between each drag. And then a voice hers. This time murmuring something to herself in the bathroom. I followed the sound, and that's when I saw her. Kneeling in front of the bathroom mirror, the lights off, candles half burned on the counter. She was talking softly, over and over, to the fogged glass, even though the room was cold and dry, like she was waiting for something to write back. He's not in the ground. He's not in the ground. He's not in the ground. I said her name, softly, carefully. She didn't flinch, but the mirror did, just for a moment. A ripple like a droplet hit the surface. Like the reflection tried to correct itself, but couldn't find the right version of her. To land on? That's when she turned her head toward me, and I swear to God. She smiled like someone who'd just solved a riddle no one else could hear. She stood up slowly, wiped her hands on her dress, and asked, "Did you bring the recorder?" I didn't answer, because I hadn't told her about the recorder. Not in the emails, not in the call, not to anyone. She stepped closer. Have they only talk when you're not trying to remember? That was the moment I realized something was deeply wrong. Not just with her, not just with the sound, but with me, because I had brought the recorder. I just didn't remember doing it. I reached into my coat pocket and there it was. My old Olympus, still warm, still running. Already recording, I played it back. The file started 10 minutes before. I pulled up to her house, except my voice was already on it, whispering panicked. And not alone, another voice overlapped it, like a second track bleeding through magnetic. Tape, a man's voice, calm, controlled, saying the same sentence over and over. He's in the static. Don't remember him. Drop the recorder. Emma just nodded, as if something had been confirmed. And then she asked the question that shattered everything. Do you remember the train? I froze, because she shouldn't have known about the train. That part of my life was sealed under therapy, childhood, trauma, and a doctor who wrote dissociative event in a report my parents never picked up. I haven't thought about that night in 20 years, but suddenly I did. The flash of metal, the red emergency lights, the hand grabbing my ankle, and the soldier Avery, except younger, dirt-smeared, face bloody, screaming at me not to look back. I was 8. I wasn't supposed to survive that crash, and yet, here I was. Except something wasn't adding up. Avery Reddick hadn't just appeared in the CAL's photo 30 years too early. He'd been in. Mine too, at the edge of the wreckage. Hidden in plain sight, I left Emma's house in a fog, with the recorder still playing in my coat pocket. The road stretched out ahead of me, but I wasn't sure I was on it. Time felt slippery, like something kept looping back when I blinked too hard. Billboards changed. My GPS rerouted 5 times, even though I hadn't touched it. And then the voice came through the speakers again. This time through the car's Bluetooth. "You're remembering out of order." I pulled over, heart hammering. I tried to shut off the car. The key wouldn't move, so I just sat there. Let the audio play, and that's when I heard something. Still haven't told anyone until now. The young SEAL's voice, panicked from the funeral, saying something no one else recorded. "He's not one of us. He was there before the bunker." Out. In. Before, meaning, whatever Avery was, whatever he is, wasn't just a soldier who saw something forbidden. He was the reason it was buried. I made it back to my apartment sometime after midnight. The clock on my stove was blinking 0 o'clock. My phone had no missed calls. Our laptop was dead. But the Olympus recorder still running had one new file. I didn't make. It's labeled with today's date. The timestamp is for tomorrow, and in it, my voice is whispering one thing. Don't trust Emma. She's not his sister. I haven't listened past that. I don't know who left it, but right now, she's outside my building, and she's holding a mirror. She didn't knock. She didn't have to. Emma just stood there at the threshold of my building, her face still, her eyes off. Not wrong, just wrong in a way you couldn't name. Like she wasn't built to blink the way humans do. Her hands gripped the mirror, tight to her chest, but the surface was angled outward, toward me, so I wouldn't mistake who it was meant for. My own face stared back, distorted slightly, warped at the edges like the glass was curving from heat. Except when I blinked, the reflection didn't. It watched me blink, a frame too slow, one eyelid lagging like it had to think about it first. Something behind my eyes on that glass wanted in. That's when I decided I couldn't let her inside. Not because I was scared of her, but because part of me, some old scar of a thought, was scared she already was. She didn't follow, just left the mirror outside my door and walked away like a delivery driver who knew I'd come out eventually, and I did. Hours later, when the sun rose, and I could almost convince myself I'd dreamed the night before, but the mirror was still there. No note, no tape, no explanation. Just a thick smear of ash across the bottom half, like something burned behind it. I brought it inside, set it face down on the kitchen table, and drank until the quiet returned. Until it almost felt like the weight of the last 2 days had cracked under the pressure of the real world against another online rabbit hole, another fringe mystery buried under conspiracy tags. Maybe I was sleep deprived. Maybe I wanted to believe something was watching me, because the alternative meant I was watching myself fall apart. That's the most dangerous part of truth, the longer you chase it, the more it starts to wear your own face. I told myself it would all make sense once I found Avery's original unit, the real records, the ones not listed in any public database, and it worked. For a moment, it worked. I found a lead buried in the National Archives paper only. A declassified internal memo dated February 1996, 4 months before Avery's disappearance. It listed a top-secret retrieval operation in the Nevada desert, Echo Recovery Protocol Zeta 4. 11 men went in. Only 2 came out. One was discharged under psychogenic fugue. The other, no name listed. Just a series of numbers. Subject 91207R. That number matched the barcode on the back of the old photo of Avery I'd scanned. It wasn't a photo. For a newspaper, it was an intake record. Avery Reddick wasn't a war hero. He wasn't even a soldier anymore. He was a witness to something that broke 11 other men. And the government's solution was to erase him, scatter his timeline across multiple false IDs, and feed him just enough of himself to keep him moving but not remembering. Like a controlled memory leak, slow drip so the dam wouldn't burst. And here I was, standing at the edge of the only lead I'd ever trusted, feeling like I'd finally caught the thread that unraveled it all. Emma's role made more sense. Now, she wasn't his sister. She wasn't even real, not in the traditional sense. She was likely planted by the same system that tagged 91207R. meant to mirror Avery's trauma into others. A human trigger, shaped to awaken whatever had been buried in his mind. She found people who had seen him, people like the seal, like me. She was the burn protocol. Her job wasn't to help it, was to reactivate. And then, for a few hours, I'd felt like I'd won. The truth was awful, but it was truth. A man erased because he saw too much. A woman used as a living trap. False siblings. Looping voices. Government burn files. It all added up, until the recording changed. I didn't mean to play it. I hadn't touched it. But sometime around 2:17 a.m., the Olympus turned on by itself again and began playing the first audio file backward. Only it wasn't reverse gibberish like I expected. It was a message, clear, intact. A child's voice. Mine. If you remember the train, stop. Not yours. That single sentence cracked something inside my head, like glass bending too long in the heat. I dropped the recorder, stared at my hands that were suddenly smaller. The skin on my knuckles looked unfamiliar, like the hands weren't mine yet, like I was standing between myself and a version of me from a different year. My ears began to ring, not loud, just persistent. It's almost like a tone test you hear before an emergency broadcast. Only I wasn't hearing it with my ears. It was in my teeth, like a frequency meant to shake something loose. I ran to the mirror, flipped it over. This time the reflection didn't resist, and behind my shoulder, I saw her. But it wasn't Emma anymore. It was my mother. Except, she died in 2006. She was holding my face in her hands, the way she used to when I had night terrors. And her mouth moved in that same soothing rhythm. Only it wasn't the lullaby she used to sing. I read her lips. He's not dead, still. Inside you. And then the glass cracked from the inside. A small hairline fracture right over where her fingers touched my face. I stepped back. And for the first time since all this began, I knew. The mystery wasn't about Avery. It wasn't about the seal. It wasn't about Emma, or the desert, or even echo recovery. It was me. I'd been remembering someone else's life, layered over my own, like skin on borrowed skin. And when I looked at the old wreckage photos, again the ones from the train crash, saw what I'd never let myself see before. Not Avery, not the rescue workers, but me, holding something in my hand. A small mirror, burned at the edges. It's covered in ash. That was the moment the last safe thread snapped, because in the reflection of that mirror, taken 30 years ago, behind me stood Emma, smiling and wearing the same dress from 2 nights ago. I called a retired forensic archivist the next morning, a man named Willis. He used to work case files that involved compromised witnesses, people who remembered the same event, different ways. People who could draw blueprints to buildings they'd never entered. He asked for all the files I had, all the scans, every voice memo. 3 hours later, he called me back. He said none of them existed. The metadata on every photo, every audio file, every email backdated by 12 days. My own laptop logs showed no user activity during the time I claimed to be researching. The Olympus recorder? It's empty. Not a single file. He asked if I'd recently changed medication, if I'd suffered a closed head injury. I didn't answer, because I already knew the truth. Hadn't uncovered the mystery. I'd been built from it. The recordings weren't anomalies. They were reminders. Set to activate once I got too close to whatever had been buried inside me. A signal from some deeper force, older than memory, older than the body I carried. And Emma wasn't the burn protocol. She was the handler. When I returned to the mirror, it was gone. My front door wide open. Single piece of broken glass left on the floor, still warm, and in the silence of my apartment. The sound returned one last time. Not through a speaker, not through my ears, but from inside my own voice. A whisper. Perfectly. Timed with my own breath. Rewatch everything. You missed it. You're not the one telling the story. And that's when the floor beneath me shifted. You weren't alone. That's the first message I saw when I opened the envelope with no return address. Postmarked from a town I've never stepped foot in, Winlock, Washington. I don't know how they got my address. I don't know how they knew I'd be watching the mirror. But inside was a single Polaroid photo, aged, water-damaged, faded at the corners. A group of 11 people standing in a tight circle around something in the dirt, backs to the camera. In the center of the group, a tall man holding a mirror like a communion wafer. I knew that mirror, every chipped edge, every strand of scorched ash that still curled at its base like something had tried to crawl out of it, scrawled across the bottom of the photo. In ballpoint ink, they called us the witnesses. You were the 12th. For the next 48 hours, I couldn't sleep. Not really. Every time I drifted off, I slipped into what I thought were dreams, until I realized I was seeing them. The others, not clearly, never enough to name faces, but always the same group, always standing in formation. Never speaking, never turning around. Only once did one of them move, just a tilt of the head. I caught a glimpse of the eye, like it was mine. This isn't just a story anymore. And not for you, because the next message wasn't written for me. It was embedded in the footage. A single frame in the SEAL's funeral clip, the same one I thought I'd seen a dozen times. But when I slowed it down, froze it frame by frame. At the moment he collapsed, the glitch in the feed revealed something buried behind him, symbol carved faintly into the flag behind the casket. 2 circles overlapping, with a vertical line slicing through the middle. I didn't see it before, no one did. But once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere on road signs, in background graffiti, carved into old park benches. Even in childhood drawings I've dug out from storage. This symbol was never meant to be seen by the public. It's part of something older, a language of survivors. I'm starting to understand now. This isn't a conspiracy being uncovered. It's a signal being reactivated. I followed the symbol to a message board buried deep in the web, designed to look like a defunct military forum. Archived sometime after Y2K, only a few threads still functioned, but one caught my eye. Titled Echo Witnesses, Roll Call Active, Waiting. Hundreds of comments, all dated years apart.
Oh.
Some as recent as this week, all anonymous, signed only with the same closing line. I saw him too. He didn't age, and scattered between the comments, fragments of something older, field reports half redacted, photos of eyes scratched out with charcoal, transcripts of dreams where everyone hears the same phrase in different languages. But it always means the same thing. Remember backward, forget forward. I thought I was chasing a hidden truth. Now I see I was being pulled toward it. I'm not the only one who's felt it. I reached out to a woman named Liza, one of the earliest users on the board. She responded in a voicemail, not a call, not a text left at 3:04 a.m. Time-stamped an hour before I sent her my message. Her voice was hoarse, whispering like someone listening through the wall might report her for speaking. It's clearly, she said, we aren't the ones dreaming. We're the dream itself. That's why they need the mirrors. They're the only surface that still remembers what we looked like before they put us in this version. She ended the message by humming a note, a single, low tone, and then her voice, cut out completely. Silence. But when I replayed it through my headphones and turned the volume past what my device allows, something else emerged beneath the hum-hidden audio modulation. Coordinates, latitude and longitude. A location in Montana, a decommissioned Cold War silo. I made the drive. 6 hours in, the same SUV passed me 3 times. Same dent in the driver's side door.
House.
Same cracked plate. No passengers. When I pulled over at a gas station, the same vehicle was already parked ahead of me, empty. At the silo, I found rusted fencing, barbed wire, long fallen, and a sign that had been burned black, but still legible under the soot. Echo 12, Biohazard, Level 5, the hatch. Wasn't locked. Inside was damp earth and metal decay. No power, no light, but all along the walls, in thick charcoal strokes, were names. Mine was one of them. Right at I-level. Next to Emma's, and written underneath in red. Witnesses bleed forward. This is the part where it should all come together. The government buried us. The experiments were real. Memory transfer, identity erasure. Psychic containment protocols, they did everything to keep the truth locked in a dozen fractured minds. It should be over, but it's not. Because that would make sense. And sense is a comfort they never gave us. Here's what I didn't expect. The camera, old, handheld, analog tape. I found it resting on a small steel table, under a tarp, still functioning, no power source. There was only one tape inside, unmarked. I played it, and there I was. Not as I am now, but younger, maybe 12. Sitting in a room, I don't remember, speaking calmly to someone off-screen. Behind me, on the wall, the same overlapping circle symbol. My younger self is saying things I have never consciously known. Coordinates, call signs, details about operations that were supposedly sealed decades before my birth. Then he pauses, looks into the camera and says, with eerie calm, "They told me to die." But I remembered instead. The tape ended in static, and buried in the static frame by frame was a face, not mine, not Avery's, not Emma's. Yours, the viewer, your reflection, frozen, watching just behind you. And now the message board is changing. Users are uploading screenshots of this video, of moments that shouldn't exist yet. One post, just last night, read, "He's starting to remember. He just saw us. They're talking about me." Or maybe not, because here's what Emma told me when I finally confronted her. If that even was still her, she said, "You're not the 12th. You're the recorder, the device. You were built to carry us forward when they forgot how to. This is why every time you've watched, you've noticed something off. A voice that lagged, a shadow that didn't match the light. A name mentioned twice when it shouldn't have been. This wasn't sloppy editing. It was residue, memory artifacts. It's fractures in the container, and you were never just watching this. Story unfold, you've been leaking it. The phrase they kept from the redacted files. Echo containment requires third-party playback to stabilize delusion vectors. You were right all along. The things you've dreamt. The loops. The feelings you couldn't explain. The images that made your skin crawl, though you'd never seen them before. It's not imagination. It's you remembering the others. There are more of us there always were. We've just been spread across many versions of the truth. Some of you will think this is just a video, just a story. You'll click off and move on. But some of you won't. Some of you are feeling it right now, that low hum in the back of your skull. The one that sounds almost like your own blood, but slightly too rhythmic. Like it's not just flowing. It's pulsing, waiting. And if you've seen the symbol 2 circles, it's one vertical line you've already. It's been marked for retrieval. It's not over. It never was. Because you weren't watching the story. The story was watching you.